Hello there, and welcome to Reach for Power, where we will take a closer look at the power itself and the strategies to build it. I am your host, Monika Kruk, and in this episode, we will focus on goal setting. If by any chance, after listening to the previous episodes of my podcast, you decided, hopefully, that the power is something worthwhile to focus on, you might ask yourself, okay, Monica, what will be the first step for me to start executing that in practice? My key advice would be set goals for yourself. Because without goal setting, you will effectively get somewhere, somehow, someday, but without much control in terms of the direction, speed, and the final outcome of your journey. Now, if you start thinking about your power goal, I would advise to consider it literally as if you were setting a strategy. Because guess what? Effectively, it is a strategy, a personal one, the one for you. The way to go about it that I would suggest would be top down, meaning you start with clearly describing the final destination that you would like to reach. That destination might be, for example, getting a promotion, getting a long overdue raise, formulating your own personal brand and promoting it successfully online, expanding your network externally, expanding your network internally, getting into better relationship with your managers or getting more visibility in terms of people with power. The list goes on. The key point is to start with the trophy, which you can almost visualize. I'm joking that this trophy should be something that you can almost put on the shelf. This is a metaphor, of course, but the key point is make it big enough to be inspirational so that you are literally reaching for the moon. But on the other hand, so that this goal can serve as a guiding lighthouse to which all other elements will be aligned to. Because after formulating this final destination, next step would be to choose specific strategies which will be most effective in terms of helping you to get to that goal. We've discussed them in detail in the previous episodes of the podcast, so I will not be repeating myself. But the key point would be to choose two or three out of the options that we already covered and bring them to life in terms of supporting your specific goal. Typical traps that I observe with goal setting is that, first of all, it sounds really vague and open to different interpretation. For example, I want to advance in my career. Honestly, I have no clue what advancement in career means. Does it mean that you want to get promoted, or you want to earn more money, or you want to have a flashier title? But the problem is that if you are not able to formulate it, how can you tell whether you achieved your goal or how can you plan to get there? Second common mistake is to focus on reactive rather than proactive elements, meaning looking for certain opportunities is great or waiting for certain opportunities to happen. But guess what? If they do not happen, then you are landing in a stuck position. But instead, if you formulate your goal in a way which will imply that you will actually create those opportunities for you, that's a completely different story because then control is effectively in your hands. Third point, which I observe very often, is focus mainly on the tasks related to your organization or the corporate goals rather than growing your own power. However beautiful and heartwarming it might be for your organization, you need to keep in mind that unless you are an entrepreneur and your organization effectively equals you, then you will be building empire for somebody else. Is this your goal? I am aware that this is a very bitter truth to spell out because many of us in the corporate world have heard that if we will take care of business, the company will take care of us. But guess what? Looking on the latest developments, for example, on the US market, but not only, and the massive layoffs which followed, I think it's crystal clear that if you do not take care of your own interests, nobody else will, full stop. And last but not least, in terms of common mistakes or misconceptions around the goal setting for power exercise, do not sell yourself short. Ask yourself a question: are you shooting high enough? Do you have your moonshot? Do you have your holy grail? This type of thing in terms of power journey to which you will be striving to. The higher you set the bar, the higher you will jump. You might also have another look at your goal, almost like for quality check, and run it by SMART framework, meaning whether your goal is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Let me add a few words of commentary. Specific, meaning are you clear on what the outcome should be? And that point I already mentioned a moment ago. Secondly, measurable. Would you be able to measure your progress on certain criteria or certain KPIs? I will speak a bit more about it in a moment. Point number 3, attainable. Are you reaching high enough, but at the same time, considering your current situation, are you not overshooting your goal? Because the ambition, of course, is the name of the game, and you should aim high. But on the other hand, overdoing that, blowing it out of proportion and out of realm of realism, might have certain demotivating effect. So yes, by all means go high, but still make it, well, realistic. Next element is relevant, meaning will this goal or the elements that you plan to achieve help your progress on the path to power? How it will improve your professional situation or help you build your brand or secure more powerful position? What's the point of your activity? And last but not least, timely. Can you assign a specific timeline to your goal? How would you be able to check whether you are on track time-wise? Now to come back just for a moment to the assessment plan. It is clear to have some sort of understanding how you are going to track your progress. If your listed tracking points sound more like next steps of your project, then this is not necessarily the way to go. I would encourage you to check whether the elements that you have on your list and the way they are phrased will allow you to answer a simple question. Am I progressing towards my goal? Am I moving in the right direction? Because we are measuring not only the final destination or like 0, 1 type of thing, but also all the milestones that are needed to get there. And you should be able to answer those specific questions effectively at any point of time. Why it's important? Because if at some point your answer is no, I am not sure whether I'm progressing towards my goal or I am not moving in the right direction, first of all, you can go back to your goal and check whether it's still relevant, whether it's still in line with your expectations and with your deepest desires. But on the other hand, you can also pivot and implement different strategies or different variants of strategies for building power. To make things real, great practice is to divide your next steps into smaller time segments, like for example a week or even a day. If you have a very clear plan in those small time frames, you are on the right track, first of all, to be able to answer the question whether you are still on the right path pretty much at any point of time. Secondly, you would be able to adjust to any changes or any differences in terms of expectations or the environment around you. And last but not least, you will be able to keep your motivation high. If you set a very ambitious goal but then do not divide it into smaller, manageable pieces, it might feel a bit daunting how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to achieve it. But if the pieces are much smaller and much easier to pre-plan and almost like to see the consecutive outcomes, then there are higher chances that you will be able to stay on track. Last but not least, the key element about building power is that it is very much like learning to swim. You can listen to all the podcasts in the world. You can read all the books that you can think of. You can go through many articles. But at the end of the day, if you do not get your feet wet, meaning if you do not exercise what you've read about, then honestly speaking, you will drown. Because it is very difficult, if not impossible, to learn swimming from books, but it's the same with power. if you take the knowledge that you obtained from various sources and start practicing, first of all, there is a chance that you will master certain skills which are necessary in order to build your influence in organization. But more importantly, each of the strategies that we discuss have different facets to them, have different characteristics, and can be adjusted to your personal style, to your personal brand, or to your context. However, without trying, we can theorize ourselves to death and we will still not be able to answer which strategy will work in your specific case. Because the only way to go about it is to go out there, try, understand the results, and pivot if needed. Last point to mention, record your progress, both for motivational purposes to see how far you've come, but also for the purpose to make conscious choices in terms of next iterations. If you have enough data, you would be able to tell which of the strategies in what format worked for you most effectively and which ones, for example, do not match your style or your specific environment and simply do not bring the desired results. At the end of the day, your time is the key asset that you put into your power journey, and it should bring certain return on investment. By return on investment, we mean building your level of influence. And in order to do that effectively, you need to understand which tools to use to make the most of it. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe to have regular access to the newly published content. You are also welcome to check Reach for Power webpage at reachforpower.com for more materials and share your thoughts and comments through LinkedIn. If you would like my personalized help in terms of setting your power goal, just let me know. Thank you for joining me today and keep on reaching for power.